All right, here we go. It's Valentine's week. Some of you face that with frustration, and others maybe with just the fear of expectations. There's something about Valentine's week that always, I think, sets up our expectations for relationships in a way that isn't always very successful. So I'm wishing you the best, but it's sort of a funny little side note. I looked through my son's texts because he's 13 and that phone is mine. Some of you parents get that out there. And I was looking through it, and he actually texted his little friend who's a girl. I don't call it a girlfriend yet, he's 13. A friend who's a girl, and he said, "So, are we doing gifts?" I love the direct approach, right? I think he's such a romantic. Anyway, hopefully you survive this week, maybe even thrive. And it looks like we do have well, because you finished up a paper this last week, this is going to be a lighter week on writing, a little heavier on reading. So I'm looking at week 5. We're going to be starting a literary essay, which is a different type of writing. It is more, think in terms more of analysis, breaking things down into chunks, which you do with any kind of writing, but frame it in the context of all of those literary terms that you remember discussing in your high school classes, things like characterization and plot and symbolism. The readings are a combination of stories and poems, so get your storyness on. This is sort of fun. In fact, analyzing a story for the point where you see the story really unfold is sometimes an interesting way to look at the way an author is constructing a story. Also, just knowing that so many of the stories that we even were raised with, like fairy tales and things, have their roots in teaching material. So sometimes authors are trying to teach us a lesson. Not always is there a moral to the story as much as they're trying to expose something about society. I think even in contemporary literature and movies, things like The Hunger Games, definitely the message is very clear about what that author thinks about government and society. Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of that mixed in as well. I'm going to be reading through stories and poems and then just participating in a discussion board. That's the only assignment this week. I am going to ask you to take a sneak peek at next week, and next week is a worksheet called Writing to Analyze. It's exercise 3-2. And if you want to, you may want to open that up. You don't have to complete it this week, but you may want to start opening that as you're reading, kind of combine the 2 weeks to give you a context for analysis. Some people get confused. I take the exercise 3-2 from a literary critic who is explaining how to do literary criticism. His last name is Scholes, and so you'll see that name. That's not additional pages to read, though that's my internal citation because I'm trying to be academically responsible just as I ask you to be. So you don't have to peek ahead, but looking at that worksheet as you read this week might give you a place to jump off and maybe save you time in the future. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Have a great week of reading stories and poems. And as always, keep the questions coming if you have any concerns.